little time right now, and I don't want to take time to do this binding at the moment, but I'm going to take enough time to get this fretboard glued on here, I believe. So we'll do that next. I'm going to scratch it just a little bit with this toothed blade. I don't think it needs much, but there's places where it's pretty slick. This back extension, for instance, is pretty slick. I believe that'll be fine. I'm going to use my little pin method. I take a little nail, a real fine finishing nail. These are very tiny. They're really called brads. And I only drive it in, you know, 1/8 of an inch or something, maybe a little more than that. And then I just take the side cutters and cut it off smooth. It leaves just a sharp little point there, pretty much is all it does. And I'll do the same thing, and I do it on the opposite side back here at the heel. And again, I just hold it under my hand like this, that way it gets rid of the stress of hammering on this. And cut that one off. Again, I got 2 nice little nubs there now, and you can see I can move the whole mandolin with those 2 little nubs. Then as carefully as I can, I want to locate this on here, and I'm locating it by this body line and by the sides of the neck. I'm gonna call that good right there. So now I'll tap it right here, and I'll tap it back here, and hopefully that put a mark in it. And it did. It put a little mark in both places. Got a very tiny drill. It's very tiny. It's even probably smaller than the brad. This bit is not very sharp. It broke off, and I just kind of ground it with the drill turning. It's not sharp at all, in fact. And one way that's kind of good, because it doesn't go through very fast. So it kind of almost burns its way in rather than cuts its way in. And that's all I need. I just need it deep enough to allow those nails to set up in there. And now we should, with any luck, they should just locate perfectly. And that one fell in, and hopefully the back one will fall in. Actually, the back one's not doing so much. There it is. Yeah, I feel it now. Had to get it down far enough. I guess the fretboard's bowed a little bit. That feels good. It's real solid. So that's what you need. You got to have it solid. And now we'll put the glue on this, and we'll use the spreader to spread it on this flat surface. I believe that will work. Now if we can just locate the holes again. I believe we've got them located. I'll just use these clamps at first, at least, and just to kind of get it in place and locked in. I believe that's got it locked in place. I never feel like those particular kind of clamps are strong enough for this job, but they're nice for quick attaching and kind of locking it into place. Then you can put the other clamps on here. That really starts to squeeze it out of there. You can see that now. So that just kind of proves my point. These clamps are much more suited to this type of gluing. And again, people will say that you can squeeze all the glue out. I've never felt like that was an issue. After 40 years, I squeeze them as tight as I can get them to squeeze. And to my knowledge, I've never had a glue joint come loose that I can recall. That was glued well anyway. I mean, I've had a few things where they were marginal to start with, where the glue joint was dirty or something, but on a normal clean glue joint, I've never had one come loose that I can recall. Well, that's about as clamped as I can get it. One of the reasons you want to use so many clamps is to keep it flat, because you'll press it down in some places and not in others, and then you'll have a warped fretboard. So you want to keep it pressed as much as you can press it, the full length. That's why you want to use the more clamps, the better. So, you know, if you can get them about every couple of inches at the most, then you should have a pretty flat fretboard when you're finished. We're going to have to let that set. We'll come back to it later. The old 1 step forward and 2 steps back. That's kind of where we're at right now. You know, I've got all the binding on this thing. I didn't show all of that because you've seen it in other videos, but I've got all the binding on here. Now I'm going around and cleaning it up, because you can't just put the binding on it because it never matches perfectly. I mean, it gets close, like it's very close around here, but it's not perfect. And so now you have to sand it, you know, file it, touch it up, sometimes even carve it a little bit. Just a lot of work. I wasn't happy with the whole neck area. Once you get the binding on the fretboard and get the fretboard on there, then the neck feels different. And so I took it down to the specs of a Lloyd Loar, 1923 Lloyd Loar that I have worked on. And it's feeling really nice. Now, it's still a little bit more round than a Loar is. The Loar's more angular, or more kind of a V shape. So I'm kind of semi getting there. I don't want to go all the way to a V shape, but having it a little bit more rounded, I think feels better in your hand. And it is tiny though. It's really small neck. It's really starting to turn out really nice, but this detail work, you just really seriously have no idea how many hours I've got in all this detail work. You know, people are thinking that because I complain about this that I don't really know how to do it. Well, you know, I've done it like 40 times, folks. I mean, it's not like I don't know how to do this. I know how to do it. There's lots of ways to do everything, but there's no easy way to do an F-style mandolin. It just is no easy way. And, you know, some people say, well, I just did such and so on my one mandolin that I built. Well, you did it one time. Do it 40 times. And then tell me how much fun it is. You know, I mean, one time you're excited about it. My first one, I don't feel like it was as hard as this one is. Now I'm also a lot more picky. I'm selling them for a lot more money, so they have to be as good as I can possibly make them, you know. And so that's where a lot of it all comes from, all the frustration, because you never get it as good as you want it. I don't care how good you get it. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm not showing a lot of this because it's just tedious work, just scraping and filing and stuff, and it's just hours and hours of it. I seriously could easily carve the top and the back again, make a whole new set of sides quicker than I can do all of this. I'm not exaggerating on that. So anyway, there you go. We'll show you more progress as we make it.
Many hours later.
Still detailing, still sanding. I'll catch you in another couple 100 hours.
3 weeks later.
Still sanding. I'm about to get there, but I'm actually about to get to the point where I have to clean it all back up now and restain everything. See where I've sanded through the finish in lots of places. You know, you have to get the binding down smooth where it doesn't feel like there's any problems. And like right here, I can feel problems. So, you know, I've got to do a lot more sanding right there. It's just not a simple process at all. So I have a lot more sanding to do, and unfortunately you sand through when, you know, this, this real wood, it doesn't scrape all that well. I mean, you can scrape it to some degree, but the sycamore doesn't scrape as well as some other woods will scrape because of these little flecks in there. So anyway, sanding seems to be my only option. This quilted maple doesn't scrape at all either, so Sanding's about my only option here to get these surfaces smooth, and I keep sanding through the finish because I can't control it very well. If I was scraping, I could control it a little bit more precise and I wouldn't have so many sanded through spots. So it just is what it is, like I say, and it's going to be a big process cleaning this back up and airbrushing it and all kinds of things I'm going to have to do to bring this finish back. It's going to be a process, but it'll be beautiful, I think, when it's done. I'm holding out the faith that I can make it happen yet, but I can tell you for sure this one ain't an easy one. I think the combination of this type of quilted maple, because it's so hard to scrape, this combination of the sycamore binding, and the combination of the fact that I'm not real up on the true oil varnish. I mean, I've used it a number of times, don't get me wrong, and I'm familiar with it, but under all of these circumstances, it's a little more complicated than maybe even the norm, you know. And so anyway, the bottom line is it's just not a simple one to do. But I'm going to get her there eventually, and I might have 2 or 3 more birthdays before I get her there, but I'll eventually get it there. I'll check back with you whenever I make more progress. My friends, Caleb is making an observation about me on this. I keep saying, okay, now that I've got all the detail finished, I can move on to detailing the detail. It's true. I have detailed this thing till I'm sick of it, but you know, you just keep going over it and over and over, and each time you do something different, you know, like I was touching up all the finish from having stripped the neck down and, you know, had to re-airbrush these dark areas where I had sanded through in different places. It's getting close. You know, to be perfectly honest with you, I had forgotten to put these side dots in, so I had to do that, and that was quite a bit of detail and a little bit harder to do because it was already on the mandolin. Not crazy hard, except for these ones right here around the scroll. So those are much harder to get to, but I got them done. And anyway, so I'm still just going through it in minute detail, and maybe doing that for another hour or two here, and then I think I'm finally really getting very close to putting the final coats of clear finish on it. Couldn't come too soon for me.
Many months later.
Getting down to the home stretch on the New York mandolin here, the quilted maple mandolin. And I couldn't tell you how many coats of the true oil varnish on here. But now I'm going to knock off this last coat that I put on there and try to get rid of all the there's like little raised spots, like almost like sanding dust or something in the finish. This will knock that all down smooth. Then I should be able to put one more coat on it, and with any luck at all, we're done. And the cool thing about this stuff is that it does dry really quick. So if I put it on there yet this afternoon, then, you know, by Friday, I should easily be able to string this up, today being Wednesday. Though it may be a little optimistic, I probably won't get it strung up this week. It'll probably be early next week. Just because there's too many irons in the fire, mostly. And more drying time is always good anyway. So you can kind of see where I'm headed there, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get ready to put the next final coat of varnish on it.
Several months later.
I have a never-ending job for you, and from now on, that's all you'll ever do. It's called sanding. It just doesn't ever stop. Caleb agrees. You spray it on, you sand it off, and you do it again. And you do it again. And you do it again. That's pretty much how this goes. Yeah. So I'm about sanded through on this one, and then I'll be putting some more on, and I'm hoping it's the last coat, but I don't know that for sure. You got to fill in all the voids.
2,000 years later.
Caleb and I have come to the conclusion that should you decide that you want to have an occupation where you would never be unemployed, get real good at sanding, because there's got to be a million places that want your business, want your service, I guess. Because it's a never-ending job. It's never-ending. So if you were really good at sanding, you'd probably never be unemployed. But it's got to be done. And I'm doing the best I can. Still got around here and around here to go. And then I can put on the next finish and perhaps do it again.
Thousands of tears later.
Well, my friends, I have sanded all the finish off of this yet again, and I have steel wooled it. So it is now, just kind of a dull color, but it's looking really nice. I'm going to see what it will be like to just buff it out with the semi-chrome, and that's where I'm headed next. So I have just a little bowl of water here to lightly dampen the corner of my little shop towel. Put just a little bit of semi-chrome on here, and we'll just start right in the dead center and see what that looks like. And then we'll buff that off and see if it looks like it's something. Not too bad. That might be more work than I feel like doing at the moment. I might take it over to the big buffer and see what that does to it, and maybe even use a little of the semi-chrome on the big buffer. I'm not sure. I've never tried that before, but I might give that a shot. We'll see what the buffer does to it first. I got to save the hands as much as I possibly can, and this would work and would do a great job, but I just don't know that I'm up to it. So I'll try the buffer and see what that does. My friends, I'm afraid to tell you I haven't been keeping up with the videoing on this mandolin lately. Mostly I was working on the finish. I've got the finish up in pretty good shape, although I'm still not 100% happy with it. It sinks in a little bit around some of the binding and stuff, and so I've got to go back through it. I'm basically going to go ahead and set it up, get it playable, and then I'm going to go back and do the finish one last time. That way the finish will be perfect whenever I do put the strings on it. There's a lot of work to setting these things up and a lot of potential for light scratches and things, and so anyway, it's not a bad way to do it. Just takes a little longer. But I have not played a note on it yet. I've just started putting the strings on it. So when I get the last two strings on it here, I'll try to adjust the action first, and then I'll tune it up and we'll play it, and you'll get to hear it for the first time. You'll get to hear it as I get to hear it. I believe I've got the action adjusted pretty well, although it'll probably still need a little bit of tweaking here on these two, especially on the middle strings, maybe even on the bass strings. I'm not sure. It's pretty close though. So I haven't put it up to tension yet. That's when you find all those little details out. So it's ready to go up to tension, and we're going to see if this thing makes any noise. So I'll just let you guys listen to it as I tune it up. arthritis is hurting so bad I can hardly turn the tuning keys. That's the sad part. I like to take them up real slow. Now what I'm going to do is kind of set the early intonation. I'll just pick a note. Doesn't really matter too much. That's an E flat. Pretty close. If anything, it's just a hair sharp, but only a hair. So I'll move the bridge back just a little bit on that side. See what it looks like on this side. That's just a B. Pretty close. That is pretty close right there. I think I'm just going to put it down here in my lap and tune it up. Bring the camera over a little closer. Makes it a little easier to tune, holding it the way I normally hold one. This time I'm bringing it up to pitch, but I'll have to go through it one more time just to settle it down. Well, initial thoughts are it sounds like a Rosa. Second thought is I think I've still got the action a little bit low. So I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. It's still a little bit low, so I'm going to reduce the tension a little bit here up on the strings and raise the bridge up just a little bit back there. That's assuming I can turn it. May have to take more tension off. My dad always told me, he says, son, don't ever force anything, just get a bigger hammer. So I'm not going to force these to turn, I'm just going to get a little bigger hammer here, which is, in this case, a set of pliers. I didn't have the gold ones in stock, so I used this silver one as a temporary setup here. When the gold ones finally get here, which we ordered more than 2 weeks ago, I'll replace that. That looks a little better, probably close enough. It was pretty close as it was. Now I'll tune it again, and I'll bring you back when I get her tuned back up. Got her tuned all back up. Got a lot of punch. Got it really low. The action, I mean, look at there. That's I don't even know what thickness of that pick is. It's not very thick. That's only 39 thousandths, so it holds that pick all the way back to about the 12th fret. So, pretty good. I just can't get over that back. It's just about as pretty as you'd want to find. I even like the front. I think the front looks really nice. Nice color to it. Sides. I got a little boo-boo right about here that you can see where it's kind of sanded through. I'm going to have to fix that. And there's a few other little places where the finish is just soaked in. Matter of fact, almost everywhere around the binding, the finish is soaked in. So, you know, I don't know. It's handmade instruments. They're not quite the same as a production model. There's going to be a few little minor differences, few little minor flaws. But in terms of sound, it's going to be a boomer. Nice depth of tone already. See how well it's in tune. I mean, it does take a little while for trees to become used to being a musical instrument. There's various numbers of trees in each instrument. Pretty close, really. The strings would stretch that much, so I don't think it's really moving. Yeah, it's got a lot of quality and sound on it. I'm real happy with it. Yeah, I was concerned that the big leaf maple might not put out the sound I was looking for, but this is a great sound. Once again, if he's not happy with it, that's okay with me. I'll just keep it. It's better than the one I'm playing every day, I can tell you that. For the record, today is December 17th, 2020, and you can see the label that's going in there. And to decipher the code, that's 52I40M, meaning the 52nd instrument and the 40th mandolin made at VSR, which is the Valley Springs Ranch. And so that's the label that's going in there. This is the one time I use hide glue, actually. I use the liquid hide glue, and I just put that on the paper here. Sometimes I use a brush, other times I just use my finger and smear it around. Just make sure it gets coated really well, that's the main thing. And then I'll just use, I believe these are called hemostats. I'll just use that to put it down in the inside the mandolin here. I think that looks pretty good right there. I take a brush and just move it a little bit, slide it about where I want it, and then just brush it. Brush all the air bubbles out of it. I don't believe it'll move anywhere now. So there's the label in there, but you probably won't be able to see it. Yeah, you can see it a little bit, I think. So there you go. It's all labeled up. No, I don't have a truss rod on it yet. I was waiting on the customer there for a little while, and I was busy out doing things, and he did reply, and I just hadn't seen the reply. But he wants me to make it just a standard black truss rod cover, as inconspicuous as possible. He doesn't want it to stand out, and so therefore he doesn't really want his name entered or anything. So I'll just make a black one and put on there. I'm not going to make another video just to show that, but you can understand that that's what that's going to look like. Well, I'm really, really proud of the consistency that I get out of my instruments. That's one thing I get a lot when I go around to different festivals and places. People often say, you can always tell when it's a Rosa mandolin, you know, because they do have a nice, very similar sound. And I really, you know, a lot of builders say, you know, everyone's different. Well, I feel the other way. I feel like they're all about the same, you know. I really do feel that way. But I take a lot of time to carve every one of them exactly the same, you know. And I think that's where it's at. I don't know if that's going to be the end of the series on this one or not, but I think it will be. So I hope you've enjoyed it up to this point, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button, I would appreciate you doing that, and you might want to click the bell icon too so that you're notified of new videos coming out. And the last thing you could do for me, it would help me out a lot, is to click that like button or the thumbs up button, however you want to call it. Thank you so much for watching.